I want to talk about Twitter and about Rumble. First, a great development at Rumble. This is the video channel that's alternative to YouTube. In fact, the free speech alternative to YouTube. Now, I got on Rumble very early on. And in fact, as of now, I am one of the top 3 or 4 channels on Rumble. I'd love you to follow me on Rumble. If you don't already set up your Rumble account, please follow my channel. And Debbie and I have also become early investors in Rumble because we want to encourage and promote these free speech platforms. It just turned out that Rumble has now made a deal with a so-called SPAC. A SPAC is a kind of mechanism for taking a company public. And the good news about this is it's going to be a giant infusion of cash into Rumble. Chris Pavlovsky, the founder of Rumble, kind of a friend of ours, is actually now become very rich. And I sent him a funny note this morning basically saying, Chris, you are now in the same league as people like Jack Dorsey and Mark Zuckerberg. But my wife saw a photo of you and she thinks you're a pretty handsome guy, but that will not remain the case if you start growing a long beard, you stop bathing, you start dressing like a homeless guy. So, Chris replied and, with the laugh emojis. So this is great news, guys, because we've talked about the importance of alternative platforms. And right now, this is the best one we have by far. You have, channels like Getter, which have come out the gate really strong. Getter has 3.5 million people on it. There's Parler, but Rumble is in a league of its own. Rumble has grown to something like 40 million users now. So this is huge and it's going to get a lot bigger. I think the Rumble model, which is essentially we're open to the left, we're open to the right, we're open to all sides, no censorship. If it's legal, you can say it. Wow, this is a model that I think is going to make Rumble in the long term bigger than YouTube. So very good news from Rumble. Now, from Twitter, I can't say the same because Parag Agarwal, the new guy who's taken over Jack Dorsey's slot at Twitter, has just announced, literally the day after he's appointed, a new policy. The policy is that basically Twitter is now going to ban the sharing of images or videos of private individuals without their consent. Now, Twitter says that there's a reason to do this. They're trying to prevent doxing. They don't want it to be a, quote, a tool to harass, intimidate, and reveal the identities of individuals. And then Twitter makes this remarkable and I think ridiculous statement. The misuse of private media can affect everyone, but can have a disproportionate effect on women, activists, dissidents, and members of minority communities. Wait. They're basically saying that you take 2 private individuals, one is a white guy, the other is, let's say, a black guy or a Latino guy. I mean, why would it be the case that one guy has, it's okay to release this guy's name, but not that guy can have a disproportionate effect on him? It's very unclear to see why. And when they start talking about dissidents and activists, now they're getting to the heart of the matter, because I think that what Twitter is trying to do is to prevent people like Drew Hernandez from recording Antifa guys breaking windows. You can't publish their images without their consent. Think about what Project Veritas does. They go undercover, they discover all this damning information. So if they are required to get the consent of the person that they're recording, then obviously Project Veritas would not be able to do that. Think about the videos released on Revolver News of this guy, Ray Epps, standing in front of the Capitol, yelling at people, let's go in the Capitol, let's take the Capitol. This is on January 5th. And the question, of course, is that was Ray Epps put up to do that by the FBI? Remember, here's a guy who has never been arrested, never been apprehended in this context, is not charged with anything. So again, do you have to get the permission of Ray Epps before you can show him doing what he's doing? So what Twitter is doing here is, on the one hand, they're presenting this policy as benign. Look, in theory, we would say we should own our own images. We should, by and large, especially if we're not public figures, but in the private domain, we are the owners of our own likeness. You can almost say that your own likeness is your own IP address, if you will. And so if Twitter were in a kind of politically neutral way, merely interested in protecting privacy, that would be one thing. But it's very clear from Twitter's own rhetoric, from their own signaling, if you will, that this is an ideologically compromised platform. We may have to make our peace with it. I'm on Twitter. I have no intention of getting off Twitter anytime soon, but I'm also assiduously cultivating other platforms. And of course, I don't put my money in Twitter. I do put my money in other platforms because I want to help to encourage them and to build them up. So disturbing developments at Twitter. With Parag Agarwal, I talked yesterday about an interview with him and what he said. It was a little unclear from that where he stood. But if this first policy is any indication, then we return to the biblical adage, by their fruits ye shall know them. More of this and it'll be clear that the departure of Jack Dorsey, himself a censor, nevertheless puts us in even greater danger of more aggressive censorship, and that this Indian-American replacement for Dorsey, far from being an improvement, is actually taking things even further down in a bad direction.